I'm actually currently stranded from Chilliwack, my hometown.
Now to British Columbia, where heavy rain is falling again tonight.
Rescue efforts ramping up in British Columbia.
There are concerns about the stability of the roads and the bridges.
This is still a dynamic situation.
The scope of the damage is shocking.
For the third time in a week, an atmospheric river is drenching southwestern BC. Where flooding and landslides have already disrupted the lives of thousands of people.
It is November 29th, 2021, and we are currently over 14 days into an ongoing flooding and extreme weather crisis in my home of British Columbia.
It has been the wettest fall ever recorded in the Pacific Northwest. Rainfall records were broken in many places, including Vancouver and Abbotsford. And it's not over.
All this at a time when the region is essentially cut off from the rest of the country.
Honestly, the scale is just so intense. It's catastrophic. The amount of people that have been impacted in these past 2 weeks alone is a lot. And even just on the local level of trying to help our neighbors, it's a lot. And I want to start by saying that me and my family are safe. We have food, we have power, we have warmth. Our place is okay currently. The thought of just editing and uploading videos as normal just feels off. The last thing I want to do right now is be editing footage of myself from months ago, happy and stoked, out doing fun stuff and just making regular old videos.
But the cumulative effect of this succession of storms will be and continues to be a major challenge.
In Abbotsford and the Fraser Valley, farmers already flooded once in the Sumas Prairie area are watching the water rise again.
We get weather warnings of rain quantity all the time, and no one was really raising the alarm bells of the quantity of rain that was coming. And I left to go do errands. I don't leave Chilliwack all that often, but I drove about an hour to do some errands, and it was on the highway leaving my town where I realized, wait a second, this is different. And keep in mind, no one had been saying anything at that point, to me at least. I hadn't been on the internet that day. I wasn't hearing any alarms go off. I didn't know what was unfolding hour by hour in a pretty extreme way, specifically right where we live. And so as I am driving down the highway and suddenly sections that are normally on our highway, there's another road just to the north of the highway that's also driving in the same direction. And when I see that that's completely a river, and to see just the immense quantities of water in a scale that I haven't seen before was wild. It was surreal. And it still didn't settle in yet in my head that it was going to continue to get worse. It was hard to imagine, how does it get worse than that? And
this is water from the Nooksack River that is now making its way into the Sumas Prairie, adding to the burden of waterlogged farmers who are desperate for things to start drying out so they can clean up.
So by the time I was done my errands and came back a couple hours later, the water next to the highway had risen several feet and it was covered. So I'm searching for a road back home, thinking like, wow, okay, highways are closed now. I wonder, there must have been a massive accident. And then realizing, oh, the water came up that much higher. So I'm seeing it at a level that was higher than I've ever seen it in my life, to then have it raised several feet more. And I'm telling you, I was driving around these back roads and it was a little bit chaotic. Like there was lines of cars hours long trying to find routes just to get to their homes. And I drove through this one puddle section and then go down and I just see cars lined up for hours. And so I turned around and to come back, I waited about 30 minutes. And by the time I came back, the water in that area 30 minutes later was a foot or so higher. It was just, it was mental to see that level of water rising happening so quickly. So it's now dark out. There's tons of cars at every intersection. Traffic is just jam-packed. And I was like, this traffic's crazy. There's no reason I need to be out here on the roads. I'll just tuck in for the night at a friend's place. And so I called a couple people, and I eventually found a couch to sleep on. And it was that evening just scrolling TikTok on my phone and seeing the damage, seeing people's farms, just seeing them trying to get their livestock out. I mean, it's horrific, the iPhone clips that were coming out of the actual farms in the days immediately after this, as farmers literally had to just leave their livestock to drown.
This event is very strong. It's the third consecutive storm in a week with very little respite in between these events. So the effects are cumulative.
It's just heavy because these are, I mean, it's interesting how disconnected you can be when it happens somewhere else, but it's just very heavy when it's home, when it's your neighbors. It just hits differently, especially when you know that people right now are going through the worst day of their life. And I'm just sitting there on my phone, just looking at that unfold. It sucks. So I'm stuck in Abbotsford. I'm stuck away from home, and obviously I'm grateful that talking to my wife that our place is safe, that the kids are safe, that they're okay. That's obviously something that's on my mind, and then starting to branch out and check on friends and family and trying to you just feel so useless because it's like you're checking in on people, but what, you can't do anything. It's not like you can help because there's water separating you from them. But it was really cool seeing the ways that people in the Fraser Valley were networking to try help people that were trapped in dangerous situations. And really, really quickly, the response from private pilots in this area was just immense. It was incredible. And that's, I think, why I've been so encouraged and inspired by the pilots of British Columbia. And specifically friends of the channel that you may recognize, Misha from BC Helicopters, the Sky Helicopters crew, Brad Friesen, a lot of, and many, many more people that I do not know their names are collectively like just donating their time, donating their hours, doing things for free, flying in supplies. And it is so incredible to see that effort happen so immediately. Not even 24 hours goes by, and immediately the entire flight community is organizing and engaging. And it's not a government-led thing. It's just citizens looking after citizens, and that's inspiring. And it's like the flying community just kicked into gear. And so I personally was just waiting it out when I got a text one morning that said, hey, by the way, this pilot Brandon, he's been doing trips back and forth from Chilliwack. He's got a space open from Abbey to Chilliwack this morning that's empty. Do you want in on it? And of course I want to go see my family, and I got in on it. And so Brandon is a commercial airline pilot. I don't know which airline specifically he flies for, but he's got a small plane and was doing incredible work with it, shuttling people with it, volunteering his time. People could donate gas money, but not asking for anything. Just seeing the normal landscape as you're taking off and everything's kind of normal. And then as you move out over the floodplain, it was a lot to take in. You see this water that looks kind of stunning, and it's in a place that you don't normally see water like that there. And then the brain starts to grapple with the reality of, that house, that farm are all underwater. Just such a wild picture of devastation. In these images, you can see the highway covered in water. And mind you, this is days after the massive initial flooding. And so they're trying to pump the water out of here nonstop, 24/7, doing everything they can. I mean, those are a lot of friends have farms down there, people that we call neighbors, just completely flooded out, that lost a lot. And this flight home was pretty It's a pretty haunting experience, actually, just seeing the scale of everything. It's going to be, flood recovery is going to be years, and we're 14 days into this, and we don't even know when the active flooding is going to be no longer happening, and when we can actually travel between towns again, and we can actually go on roads out of here again. We don't know. We don't even know when that is. Normally, when it rains for intense windows, it is relatively manageable. When water falls in mountains, it gets absorbed by the trees and into the soil and down into the creek beds, and it saturates the dirt. Sometimes it gets wetted out, but then the water creates a new little creek and connects to a new area and eventually finds its way down to the path of least resistance to get back to the ocean. On a year-by-year basis, that is just the stuff that happens in BC. And occasionally there's mudslides and things like that. But what is different this time around is just the sheer quantity of onslaught of rain and the amount of surface area that it covered. And that's a general oversimplification, but just the sheer quantity and coverage of the rain was more than we've ever seen before. And paired with one of the most aggressive forest fire seasons on record. In fact, the province just in September, 6 weeks ago, finally lifted the state of emergency from our fire season. So they finally just said, okay, that state of emergency is now over. And then 6 weeks later, if you could imagine all of that foliage and all of those trees that help make an ecosystem and geology work, where water falls down and it has roots that are holding onto the dirt, so that way the dirt doesn't just wash away. When that's all compromised by these massive forest fires, what that means is the water moves a lot quicker and it pulls a lot more things with it. Mountains move, things divert, the water's just a lot more free flowing as it kind of just tumbles down the hillside.
This could take them a while to get cleaned up. There's a 172, leaving two there, only on final for. Okay, yeah, I see you. I'm just. Yeah, look at that, eh? That is a lot of debris down there. Man, oh man.
And my initial gut reaction to like seeing this is wanting to just point fingers and be so like, why weren't things more prepared? Like, why weren't we more ready for this? Why wasn't the infrastructure better? Who thought that was a good idea in the first place, moving the water there? There's a lot of, I personally just had a lot of reactions that no one's really asking for, and it's not really adding anything. But certainly it's giving, I think, our whole community a lot to process. And that's people like me who haven't lost their home, who didn't lose their farm, who didn't lose their livelihood, who didn't lose the field that they had so carefully toiled over. And this was year 5 when the crop was finally developed and ready to go. Devastated, flooded out, gone. And it's an interesting reality, acknowledging that extreme weather events are just more likely with our planet warming. And when they come to your own backyard. I uploaded that bike packing video and I thought, is my climate messaging on this a little bit too heavy-handed? Am I just being will this come across as obnoxious to people that don't really care about the same things that I do? And now, frankly, now I'm like, I should have gone way harder, Seeing this coordinated effort through social media to lend support. And there's just so many cool stories on the ground here. Even just in our little community, seeing people shuttle around in vans to pick up donations and coordinate with this person. And then even just down the hill, there's a sandbag filling site where it's fun to drop by and just fill sandbags for a while and feel like I'm actually being useful. I'm getting blisters on my hands because I have soft keyboard hands. I want to pick up my camera and go start to document some of this and interpret it through the lens of video, which is the lens through which I experience most things in life, is through story and video, and my desire to go out, but it also just feels like I'd just be in the way and it'd just be annoying. And in a lot of sense, it's a liability to just like wander out into these evacuated areas to start documenting it. And it's just seeing the way that the flying community, the boating community, the farming community, just seeing them really look out for each other has been an encouraging thing in this. I've been sitting on this video for several days, mainly because even as I was recording this, we were at risk of more flooding happening, and it just all of this just feels pretty weird, and something that I've definitely just been, there's kind of this anger and frustration that's been bubbling up when you start to hear certain things about, you know, how the province themselves, how the government did studies into our dikes and waterways and found 97% of them not up to the standard. And then blame is just shifted, and it's sat that way for years, and people have been raising the red flags. People who study climate change, people have been saying, by the way, we're not actually ready for an extreme flooding event. And then when the event happens, and it all just seems so reckless. Like I would love to see the numbers about how inexpensive it would have been in light of the damage that's now done to do things properly. And also, even more important than just damage to property, there's people in this province, Indigenous people, posting on social media about how they do not have aid, how they are cut off, how they don't have access to food and clean water. And that is happening right now. And our government has resources. What is going on? Why are moves not being taken to actually support the people that live here? Why are some people being treated more important than others? What is happening? And it is just, it's frustrating, especially as, I mean, a big theme in the province right now has been people begging the province, the government, to sit down with Indigenous people and actually have conversations about what's the best way to go about logging unceded territory. There's ways to actually manage the way that forests get cut and replanted, so that way this cycle can continue and we can use it as a renewable resource in a practical way. And yet, in the sake of just making money quicker, rules have been bent, things have been shifted, conversations haven't been had, and we're seeing the impacts of that right now with just the devastation, not only from the forest fires, but just from reckless logging patterns that don't make sense. Maybe making this was more for my own sake than it is for yours. Certainly, as I'm trying to grapple with how to just continue doing when things are the way they are, and how do you keep making fun videos on your channel that you shot over the past while when things are this way now. And maybe it could be a very good thing for me to get lost in that and to be excited about sharing that stuff when we're working on the ground here in some different ways. There's some links down below that you can check out. There's some really cool GoFundMes and stuff going on, and people are banding together. So if you have an ability, if you have surplus, if you have a way to support and you're looking for ways to do that, I've got some stuff for you down below. If there's other resources that you know of that you think I should link there as well, hit me up, let me know. That's it for this one. Thank you if you made it this far, and I'll catch you in the next video. Remember, life's better when you make stuff. Peace.